everyone, and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by LawSikho. So, today we are going to analyze the article which is about the clothing, history of clothing in India, and why does it matter so much in a country like India. So, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper. So, let's see what we'll be discussing here. The second segment will be of news updates, in which we'll be discussing about the important news points that will be very crucial for a prelims exam. And finally, we'll be concluding with the legal news for the day. So let's understand that why at all are we into discussion of this article in the very first place. So as we know about the hijab controversy in Udupi of Karnataka, so it has actually taken a toll, and now we are still really looking forward for the Supreme Court to give its judgment in this area, and we need to consider here that hijab, as a controversy, has emerged not just because of religion, but also because that it is one thing that signifies a religion, right? So hijab forms an important part of the Islam religion, and that is why it is considered to be important for the people who practice this faith. But for the others, maybe it is not, they're not able to accommodate to the factor. But yes, here this controversy has actually uprising. Now, this article gives insight about the power structure significance of clothing and its historical debate about clothing in India. Now, this article talks about a very nice and intricate topic, and also, something that we really need to think about, that how clothes. Now, why is it actually bothering people so much, if at all we wear or not wear any particular thing? What happens is that in a social structure, the clothes or the type of clothing that you refer to, that signifies the part you are of in the society, as in the power structure that you belong to. We will see this through this entire discussion. So let's understand how it signifies power structure. So dress code symbolized and affirmed power structures, whether these were colonial, upper caste, religious, or patriarchal power structures. Now I know here getting absorbing the entire idea might be a little difficult for all the listeners right now, but let me just give you an example to give you the right understanding of this entire thing. If you remember, Razia Sultan, she was one of the most prominent rulers, and at the time when she was a ruler, she actually, was a symbol of a valor and symbol of strength. That even after being a woman, she was actually proclaimed as the next, ruler of the kingdom. Now, in this situation, if you remember, or you remember reading it somewhere, Razia Sultan had abandoned, she had given up wearing as a woman, wearing clothes like a woman. Rather, she used to wear clothes like a man. Now, here, what we can understand is that this shows the patriarchal power of the society that existed then, even though it exists now, but still, it has somewhat faded away. So, what used to happen was that by giving the symbol of wearing the dress of a man, she, it wanted to symbolize, or it was actually symbolized in the society, that she was as equivalent in strength and as capable as a man who was considered back then in that society. Now, here, definitely the kind of dressing that she used to do, when we talk about the power dressing, so that signified, power in the entire social structure. Similarly, the colonial, like, the servants of the colonial services, or the army men of the colony, or the British soldiers, they had a different, or the officers, they had different kind of a uniform that signified their power as against the other members of the society. And similarly, it goes for the upper caste and religious systems as well. Now, when a specific community is under siege, and the language of uniformity is used to naturalize majoritarian choices, see, what happens is, what we try to do is that we say that we should be all uniform. Now, here they try to become so secular in nature that we should do nothing to, something that highlights our religion. But at the same time, we should not forget that India, along being a secular country, also has the freedom of religion. And under freedom of religion, we definitely have the right to practice our religion and profess it to the best way we can, of course subjected to the reasonable restrictions under 19 clause 2. But here, what we do is that in the name of making the system, or making the society more uniform, we try to become naturalized, or we try to become more adopted or adapted with the idea of the majoritarian choices, that whatever the majority is saying, we should be just following that. And the prohibition on the hijab imposes the choices of the majority community on a minority. Similar is the case that we are seeing over here, that specifically the Hindu majority in Karnataka is trying to impose its whims and fancies, or its beliefs on the minority, that is Muslims. Now, at the beginning of the 19th century, it was a customary for the British officials to follow the Indian etiquette and remove their footwear in the courts of ruling kings and chiefs. what used to happen was that the courthouses of the chiefs and the kings, they were also considered to be having great sanctity. And that is why even the britishers, whenever they also the British officials, whenever they also had to enter these offices or these courts, they also had to remove their footwear. So, similarly, what they thought was that this is actually a good way of commanding respect from the people. And similarly, they also carved out a rule for themselves, which was called as the show respect rule of the British court, which was ultimately and finally challenged by Parsi Manokji Kowasji Ente. And later, after a lot of turmoil, it was actually put down. Now, these contradictory pasts, which are our heritage, must be brought back into the discussion, debate for building greater civility and respect for difference. Now let's understand about the historical debates in India about specifically about the clothing. So in Travancore, this is it might really surprise you, but in Travancore there was a tradition that whenever the men and women who belonged to the lower castes, whenever they had to appear before the deities or they had to appear before the upper castes, they were not allowed to put up the upper clothing on their bodies. So can you think how bizarre it could have been? So here, this used to happen, and later on, of course, it was protested against, and of course now there is nothing like that. But it used to happen in Bengal. On the contrary, there were anguishments and cries regarding the transparent, clothing of the women. Basically, what used to happen was in the times of 1872. So there was a reform which said that the material, the cloth material that the women used for their clothes was scandalously fine. That means it was very transy, and this because of this, it was actually indecent, and that is why it was urgently put forward that we should urgently produce a more moralized and decent attire. Now for discussing the next point, I would like to do you to do a little small exercise in your head. When I say imagine Gandhiji, just close your eyes and imagine Gandhiji for a second. All right, now when you have done that, I say imagine the image of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Please close your eyes and just imagine it. Now, I'm very, very sure that when all of us, even I myself, when I imagined Gandhiji and I close my eyes, an image of a very, shrill but strong man with lathi wearing round spectacles and wearing a dhoti and wearing just a simple upper cloth, white color upper cloth came into my head. And I think that must have been almost a similar image in your head as well. But when I imagine Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a person almost with the similar kind of specs, but a person in a three-piece suit, standing straight, holding a few big books in his hand, this kind of an image came to my head. So now can you see that two people, Gandhi and Ambedkar, on two sides that actually played such important roles. Gandhi specifically, if we talk about in bringing the feeling of nationalism, and Ambedkar specifically, if we talk about uplifting the lower caste people and also drafting of the Indian Constitution. But they had so different ideas of attiring themselves or basically of wearing their clothes. So where Gandhi was totally onto the Indian side of wearing clothes, Ambedkar was, on the Western side of wearing clothes. So that is why they actually had different symbolism to show. And Ambedkar basically, used to wear a three-piece suit, showing it as a sign of social mobility and modernity. With this, let's see what do we have for news updates today. Sourabh Chaudhary wins gold in ISSF World Cup. So Indian shooting ace Sourabh Chaudhary has won a gold medal in the men's 10-meter air pistol event, opening the country's account in the year's first ISSF World Cup in Cairo. Isha Singh bagged the second medal for the country after she won a silver in the women's 10-meter air pistol event. Second, President Ramnath Kovind inaugurates Arogya Vanam to promote Ayurveda. So, President has on Tuesday inaugurated the newly developed Arogya Vanam at the President's estate. So, the Arogya Vanam, spread over 6.6 acres, has been developed in the shape of a human sitting in a yoga mudra. It consists of around 215 herbs and plants used for therapeutic purposes in Ayurveda. Thirdly, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister inaugurates Naan Mudhalvan scheme. So, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin on Tuesday inaugurated the Naan Mudhalvan scheme, which aims to equip about 10 lakh youth across the state annually with skills that will help them realize their talents for the benefit of the country, basically what we call as the employable youth. So, he also launched a new portal for this scheme, that is the naanmudhavalan.tnschools.gov.in. Fourthly, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights celebrates its 17th Foundation Day on 1st March. So on the occasion, Srimati Irani launched the new motto of the NCPCR, which is basically the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, which is Bhavashyo Rakshitri Rakshitah, and said that the new motto exhorts us to protect the future and our children, for in their welfare lies the foundation of a strong nation. Let's see what do we have for the legal news today. Benefit of Section 57 of the Indian Penal Code is not available merely on the ground of being in jail for 18 years, says Allahabad High Court. So, upholding the life imprisonment sentence of 5 convicts in connection with the 2003 murder case, the Allahabad High Court recently observed that the benefit provided under Section 57 of the IPC cannot be extended to the appellants merely on the ground that they are languishing in jail for about 18 years. And Section 57 of the IPC provides for fractions of terms of punishment, where it says that in calculating fractions of terms of punishment for the imprisonment for life shall be reckoned as equivalent to imprisonment for 20 years. So this was all for the day. We hope you liked it. If so, you please may give us the thumbs up. And of course, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. You may join our Telegram channel for downloading the PDF of today's slides. And you may also follow us on our official Instagram channels for Judiciary, CLAT, UGC Net, and Law Finance exams. Thank you so much.